interesting flow of energy. While that happens, Neptune also stations retrograde. It's been going forward in Aries, brand new energy, and it's kind of like...
Should I switch to Monday CRM? Updating this field is so confusing.
Okay, I'm gonna take a respite. I'm gonna go backwards a little bit. I'm not quite ready to move forward. So it turns retrograde and it's moving back towards Pisces. Wherever you have Taurus, there may be some surprises around this period because it could have to do with things that you didn't find attractive before that all of a sudden like, oh, that's interesting, or that sounds like fun. Okay, let's do that, let's take the risk. Venus is the planet of joy, beauty, and value, the thing that we feel good about, and Uranus is the change maker, the shaker upper, the surprise guy, the rascal and rebel, and genius. So it could come through in your creativity, your creative work, or your relationships or your partnerships. It really just depends on where it is in your chart. It could come through in your personality, or you may, if you're Taurus rising or something, you maybe get a different outfit or a new style. It could be a culmination though of a lot of different things that have been going on in that area of your life over the last 7 years. So rethinking those things, and it's kind of a sweet exit for Uranus to be getting a kiss from Venus right before it leaves, right before she moves. When Venus enters Gemini, she does activate that minor trine, and this is really going to be kind of a preview. I think she's like just putting down some really sweet energy for when Uranus enters Gemini, because we're going to feel that. That's going to be July 7th. It's going to be a massive shift from material possessions, money, financial, all these things that have to do with the stability of the markets and all that stuff. It's going to still have to do with money because Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign, and it still has to do with the markets. But it will be way more about a shifting of ideas and connections, innovation. Now, it will go in on the 7th, and it will retrograde out for a little bit in November before it goes back in finally in 2026. So I believe 2025 is our on-ramp onto the freeway. We're getting all this information, all these previews. So if anything feels unsettling or strange, or with what in the world is going on in in my life, in the world, whatever it is for you, it's a liminal space, but we're getting like a preview, a little flavor of how it's going to be. Uranus entering Gemini, it's going to be new ways of sharing information, updates to social media, communications, a boost in our curiosity, our communicative ability to share new viewpoints, genius ideas, but also maybe a little bit ahead. It's because Uranus is a rascal, right? It's maybe going further ahead than we're ready for. You can see in pretty much everything, it's getting an AI treatment. You know, AI is all over the place, and this is just the beginning of that. So in the next 7 years, you know, we have the singularity is predicted from Ray Kurzweil, so that's when man and machine combine, when we start combining with these machine entities, and that's it's part of the evolution of wherever humanity is going. But with it being Gemini, it's a mutable sign, but it's also a dual-bodied sign. So there's two, right? There's two. This is the first dual-bodied sign in the zodiac, Gemini. The first communicators, where they're two. Now we can communicate. And it's a duality. So there will be two factions in my prediction. There's going to be people that are going to go into the digital minimalism, you know, lean back into records and owning the DVD instead of a streaming service, and reading books instead of watching social media and TikToks and stuff like that. So we're going into a new way of communicating and learning, and it's all part of the design. It's all part of the design. And the minor triangle that will be activated is going to be supportive. That's why I'm hopeful about the next few years. Maybe the growing pains are a little bit weird because we have something happening. It's a leveling up of humanity, of consciousness, and there's two ways that it could go. I'm talking dualistically, I'm talking polarity, like there's going to be two factions. One group is going to go extreme with the AI and the computers and all, you know, Borg-like, whatever, they're going to combine with the machines. The other side are going to reject all of this, and most of us will be somewhere in the middle. You know, we're learning how to work with these tools and trying to figure out. So during this period, this preview period, it might be wise to start thinking about your philosophy about technology, about what do you want, how much do you want to put into that, because a lot of it is designed for materialism, it's designed for distraction, and it makes us actually less competent, it makes us lazier and less smart. Pluto in Aquarius is reconfiguring our humanity, our hope for the collective. It's dismantling something. Uranus is going to come in and give it a nice trine from Gemini, so bringing those ideas, fresh ideas, out of nowhere. They're going to be like, wait, what? That's what Uranus does. I don't know if you remember, but during the last 7 years, one of them that was like that was, well, obviously the pandemic came around that time, and there was a lot of things that had to do with the supply chain getting disrupted. And then for a while, wood, lumber cost a crazy amount of money. So just stuff that was out of nowhere and surprising. Expect that to happen in technology, communication, and information. It will be an overwhelming amount of information and surprising stuff out of nowhere. So the deal with that is we need to think of what's on the other side, which if you're born in 1980, 81, 82, 83, I think that's a Uranus and Sagittarius group. You're going into your Uranus opposition, and you're the ones that are going to be able to make sense of this. This is part of your destiny, is to have those genius moments where you're taking all this new information and you're making sense of it. You make it into the Sagittarian philosophical meaning. Like, oh, okay, there's not just info. This is what it means. This is what we can do with it. So it's going to shift how we connect, and I think the people with Uranus and Sagittarius are going to be helping birth us into this new era. On July 10th, we have a full moon in Capricorn. That's always illuminating something. It's showing us something in that Capricorn area of life, wherever that is for you. And it has to go back to 6 months ago when we were putting some seeds in the ground for that area of life, or whatever we were thinking about doing, starting. It becomes illuminated at this time. That full moon, let me look at it on my
Analytics with like
program
maybe
here.
150,000 followers
That full moon,
on
it has some benefits.
Instagram, barely any on TikTok. I didn't even have a YouTube channel or a Snap. It's actually funny. Sports Illustrated swimsuit, I gained followers, but they were usually all men.
Gotcha.
Which, if you're in content and you're a female creator, you usually don't want men following you. No offense, I love my men, but like, usually they're gonna be the ones that maybe say the mean stuff, or like aren't the nicest in the comment section. Be nicer. So then when I started in content, I watched that number. I think I had like 95% men in my analytics with like maybe 150,000 followers on Instagram, barely any on TikTok. I didn't even have a YouTube channel or a Snapchat. Those numbers switched. And that was the most reaffirming thing ever, because I have always wanted like to be not cool, but like somebody that women really liked. Like I couldn't have done any of this without women being on my side. I'm a girl's girl. I love so that was just so cool to see, is watching those numbers switch and seeing like women start to fill my comment section, being like, oh my gosh, I would love to be friends with you, or like, you seem cool to hang out with. It's actually funny.
It's because Jupiter is still in Cancer. It'll be there for a year, which is really good. That gives us a little bit of oil in the oil can for the Tin Man. So yeah, that'll help us out. We do have Saturn, the ruler of that lunation, in a square aspect to the moon and sun. So there will be some potential there to be like, friction. It just makes sense, right? Saturn and Neptune together alone, that's massive. That's just a huge deal. But Saturn in its fall in Aries alongside with Neptune, it's just, it'll reset. It's resetting everything. And so maybe we're starting to see what our part is in that, and there could be some conviction, something that we're going to be realizing at this time. On the 13th, Saturn joins Neptune in a retrograde. Saturn goes backwards, starts to backtrack towards Pisces. And that will be, I think a moment where Saturn takes its spindle again, it's got his little marble bag, and puts a few more jewels in, because it's already had this preview into Aries, and be like, oh shoot, maybe I need to go and rethink this a little bit, go back to the world of boundaryless, nebulous, universal love, and see what the message is, because that 0-degree conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in February of 2026, the last time it happened was 9,000 BC at 0 degrees Aries. And the other two in the recent past, where they were even just in Aries together, one was the Age of Enlightenment, the one before that was the beginning of the Renaissance. So alongside with this technological, ideological, humanitarian, collective shift that we have with the air signs with Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, I'm guessing it has to do with some sort of